once again for tuning into my podcast, Real Talk About Life and Relationships. And I'm your host, Stephanie K, aka Sage the Coach. I am a multi-certified life and relationship coach. I'm also an author and a bunch of other things. And so I wanted to jump on here today and do an episode because I haven't been doing it. So my life has just been really hectic, really busy, as I'm sure you know. A lot of you guys understand, or a lot of you ladies understand, that stuff gets like that, and so I haven't had a lot of time to do shows. But I'm trying to get back in the habit of it. I'm actually crunched for time even right now, but I'm like, no, I'm going to make sure that I do my show today. Um, so the last few shows that I did. So what actually let me go through my little spiel to please follow, like, share my content on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and I'm on X sometimes, but not a lot. Sometimes I'm on LinkedIn too. So wherever you're watching this from, please like, share, follow, subscribe to my content, my page, and especially, to share it with other people who you think might be interested and in need of this information, because it is very, very important and essential to life. A lot of the stuff that I've learned throughout my life are incorporated in these shows, and it took me a lot of trial and error mistakes learning them. And so I know that sometimes that's the process of learning. And so everybody has to go through their own thing. But if you can learn it from other people's hard stuff instead of having to go through the hard stuff yourself, that's even better. Like, I try to kind of learn stuff and without necessarily having to make stuff hard on myself in order to get it. And so if I can be a factor in somebody else being able to do that, that's great. So I'm sharing this information because it's vitally important. And if you can learn from me, then like I said, that's even better. So my show typically is supposed to be on Thursdays at noon. I haven't been for the last couple of weeks. And so I'm back today. I'll try my best to be consistent. And that's it. So the last few shows that I did, you can also watch my shows via the Entertainment Theater on the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. You download the Entertainment Theater app, which is also on the Roku, and you can watch my show along with some other podcasts and other independent creators. So with all of that being said, I want to dive into the topic that I want to approach today, because the last ones I was getting into like, what is love? And so and we talked about love and relationships, and I talked about how love, because in the beginning of my podcast, so if you watch all of these things, they kind of build upon each other, and that's kind of what I wanted to do. And so these are revolve around growth. Like, we having real talk about life and relationships. Life is about growth. Relationships are about growth. If you're putting anything else in that place, you're out of alignment with the purpose of life, because it is to grow. That's why we grow, and that's why we're capable of growing, because that's what we're supposed to do. I'm pretty sure in other podcasts about how we make so many other things the focus of our lives, like success, having a partner, material things and stuff like that. But really, all those things are evidence or tools to help you grow as a person. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure if you watch, you listen to any CEO, or you watch any talent show where people start talking about pursuing their gifts and talents and the struggles that it took for them to get where they are, it all boils down to their growth. They talk about their growth journey, because this is what resonates with us. This is what we're all doing. This is what we all need to do. And we see the benefits of people who grow, and then we see the consequence of people who don't grow. So this is the whole point of life. And so so that's real talk, But now, one of the things that we often forget about, what does it take to grow? What does it mean to grow? Why do we need to grow? And so I try to unpack all of these things throughout my different topics of my shows, but they all kind of come back to that central point. And what does growth look like personally, relationally, and stuff like that. And so I went through some other topics related to this, and you can check out especially my YouTube page, because that's where you can kind of find stuff a little easier to explore some of this topic in different contexts. But the last show I did, I wanted to touch on what is love and what does it look like. And love boils down to growth. And so if you help something to grow, or that is how you demonstrate love to that thing. Or if you take care of something and you're doing that so that it can grow, that is how you demonstrate love. So see, it still comes back to growth. And so I talked about what growth looks like in relationships. And so what I want to talk about is how growth looks personally. Like, how do we love ourselves? Because I say all the time that unhealthy people cannot have healthy relationships. And if you don't know how to love yourself, you're not going to know how to love other people. You might have some facets or some components of love in your relationship, but that does not mean you're exercising love to its fulfillment. No, exercising love to its highest level. I'll say that. And so that's another thing that we need to grow in, to understand how to exercise love in ways that go beyond our inabilities and our dysfunctions and our confusion and stuff like that, because love is bigger than those things. And we have to get past those things if we want to love from a good place, because our love, the capacity to which we can love is only going to come from the health and growth that we have internally. And so I think it's really important to understand what self-love looks like, because a lot of the times when we talk about love, we talk about them in terms of parenting, in terms of romantic relationships, even in terms of friendships, but you don't see a lot about how to love yourself. And even now, I would say post-COVID, we're getting into that more, where people are talking about, mental health and stuff like that, which is a part of it. But few people really go into the foundational principles of what self-love looks like, what it actually is, and then not to tip over into being arrogant or self-centered, because now it seems like that's sometimes getting in the mix of what love is about: me, 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 and I got to do what's best for me and what I like for me, and that's not love either. So you have to understand what love actually is, because I talk about, in my last show, I said, what is love? Love is about growth. And so me, 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 that's not growth. If you just, everything revolves around you and what you want and what you like, what you do, you're not growing in any area. You're just pleasing yourself and satisfying yourself, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but you're not going to grow in that. And so you won't become a better person. You won't become a wiser person. You won't become a better with your relationships if everything is just focused on you. And so love is about growth. And so now I want to get into, what does self-love look like? I want to get into, what does relationship love look like? I want to get into the differences between how men express love versus how women express love. And then I want to do a show about parenting, what that love looks like, because they're different types of love, but they still have the same core. They're just exercised a bit differently. And so I want to kind of explore that a little bit. And but for today, again, I'm going to talk about, like, how to love yourself. Like, what does that look like? Because again, it's not all this me, 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 me. And so if you're going to really understand how to love yourself, the first thing that you need to do is understand what you need, so that you can provide those things for yourself, so that you can grow. So, again, we have this talk now since post-COVID about self-care and stuff like that. And that's a part of it. And I like the word self-care. I typically don't like to go along with, like, the fads or what's the words, because sometimes, they're stupid. But self-love is a good one. I like that, because we need to learn how to love and take care of ourselves. And what does that actually look like? And so if you think about yourself in terms of, and I think this is a really good analogy, it helps for me, hopefully it works for you, to see yourself as a plant. People who like plants, like I do, will probably get this very quickly. If you don't, you can put something else in its place. If you have a pet, or even if it's something that you really love yourself, like a hobby or something like that, look at how you demonstrate your care and investment into that thing that you say you love. And so if you have a plant, what do? You feed it, you water it, you make sure it's in the sun, you try to take care of it to the best of your ability. Why? So it can grow. And so you want to do that for yourself. If you have a pet, you provide their food, you take them on walks, you make sure they have a litter box. Like, you're taking care of that living thing in the capacity that it needs in order to grow, is the demonstration of how much you love that thing. Now, some people will say, not take care of their pets or their plants very well. And I'll go deeper into that even when it comes to relationships, and then state that they still love that thing. That's not necessarily true. Because if your love does not extend past the feeling of it, again, go back to what I said, that's not the fulfillment of it, which is love is the whole thing. It's not pieces of it. Because if I have my dog and I give him water, but I don't give him food, and I'm watching him suffer and he's not growing. And I say, oh, but I still love him. Actually, I don't. So we have to make sure that the way we feel is a good motivator. The way you feel should encourage action. And so the way you feel is a good motivator is the beginning, but it should be followed up with some action that brings the fulfillment of what love actually means, because love is to help, is about growth. And if you're not doing things that stimulate growth, that actually for yourself, for your pets, for anything, that is not love. That's just a feeling. And so you have to understand the difference between those things. And so your ability to provide and make sacrifices for those things that you love in order to provide for them is where you're going to see love at its, I guess you would say, its highest. And so you take care of things that you love and you provide the needs of those things. So if you can do that for a plant, if you can do that for a cat, a dog, a parrot, whatever type of pet you have to learn how to turn that back on yourself. How do I take care of myself? How do I give myself what I need so that I can grow and do the things that I am, created to do, so to speak, because plants give off, carbon dioxide and, stuff like that. So, and so the first thing you need to do is know what you need. And a lot of people don't know what they need. Again, people go off feelings, they go off past experiences, they go off all these other things to give them some idea of what they need without actually sitting down with themselves and having a conversation and trying to figure out, okay, what is it that I actually need? And so you need to know those things. I teach a course called Personal Growth and Improving Relationships, where I go into the different aspects of our needs as human beings. We all have them, sometimes in varying degrees, but it's the same. You will never come across a plant that needs absolutely nothing and it can still grow. It still needs something in order to do that. I don't care if it's water, if it's sun, if it's desert, whatever it is, it needs something to grow. And so all plants have different needs, but they kind of are similar, foundationally similar. We're the same way as humans. We have these foundational needs that all of us have to have in order to grow. If we don't have them, we don't grow. And it's just that simple. And so I talk about our physical needs, our spiritual needs, and our mental needs are the main things that we need to be providing for ourselves on a regular basis in order to be healthy and to grow. And so you need to understand what those things are. I won't go into all of that now. I can do another show about it later, or you can also sign up for my course. I do allow people to sit on in it a few times for free. But you need to know what you need in order to provide those things for yourself so that you can grow. And so learn what those things are and then make sure you're providing them for yourself. And so again, I see people sometimes who take better care of their cars, their houses, their tools, then they take care of themselves. And so that's a sign that you don't love yourself, regardless of how much you might say you love yourself or think you love yourself. Because a lot of people don't go around saying I love myself. But no matter how much you think you love yourself, if you're not providing that care for yourself so that you can grow, you actually don't love yourself. And so you need to keep that in check. And so don't take care of, even when it comes to other people, because this is a big thing when it comes to women. And I've seen it in men too, that they get so consumed with taking care of the people around them that they forget to take care of themselves. And then they think that they love themselves and they think that they love those other people. And I'm not saying it's not completely true, but you need to understand exactly what that means, because if you're not taking care of yourself, it's going to affect your ability to take care of other people. And so so that means you're not fully loving yourself, and you therefore cannot fully love them. But if you actually love them and you want to give them the best of yourself and take care of them to the best of your ability, you're going to take care of yourself first so that you can be at the top of your game when it comes to taking care of them. And so, again, we throw around these words and we say things, but you have to look at the evidence about what that actually means and what it's doing to you and the outcomes and the consequences and stuff like that to really know if what you're thinking and what you're feeling and what you're saying lines up with, for lack of a better word, reality. And so, yeah, you shouldn't be taking care of anything better than you take care of yourself. You are the most important thing in your world. And you need to make sure you're taking care of yourself so that you can do what you need to do. So you need to learn what you need, and then provide those things for yourself, and then remove things in your life that is stopping you from doing that. So, for example, if you are not taking care of your body and you're seeing that you're having maybe a weight issue or a health issue or anything like that, you need to say, what am I doing? Am I overeating? Am I smoking? Am I drinking too much? Stuff like that. And take care of yourself. Take care of your body. You need it. That's you loving yourself. And so you want to remove those things from your life, even if it takes time, because you might struggle, because you get habits and stuff like that. And so you have to push yourself to do it, whether it's exercising regularly, whether it's, okay, I need to stop drinking. Maybe I can replace this with a non-alcoholic drink or drink less or whatever. You have to do those things you have to remove those things, even if it's a gradual process, that are stopping you from taking the best care of yourself that you can do. And again, that's mentally, emotionally. I kind of connect emotions with mental because they're connected, and then physically and spiritually. Whatever is interfering in you being able to do that, then you need to remove those things from your life. And that is actually what a healthy person does, because you're going to take care of yourself. If you have, and I'm just using outside examples just to help you understand, if you have a dog, for example, and your friend has a dog, but every time your dog comes over with your dog, it attacks your dog and leaves teeth marks in him, and the dog is, and they're having fights and getting hurt, you're not going to keep bringing that dog around your dog. You know what I'm saying? You're going to say, okay, something needs to happen here because this dog is hurting my dog. You have to kind of see yourself, not as a dog, but in the same way. I need to remove these things from myself because they're not helping me. They're hurting me. And so you have to be in tune with yourself, which is another thing that I want to get to sometimes know if something's hurting you. And so, but anyway, you want to take care of yourself, understand your needs. And if that means getting outside information, which most of the time, I would say 99% of the time you will need to do to actually understand what you need, because we don't understand everything we need. So you want to get outside information to sift through and understand, okay, what is it that I actually need, get a better understanding of yourself, and then start to provide those needs, and then remove things from your life that are interfering with your ability to provide those things. Even sometimes if it's people, if you're around people and they're interfering in your ability to take care of yourself, healthy care of yourself. Now, this is where that me things gets mixed up, because people say, well, me. And then if you don't do what they want and all that, and you're not satisfying them, then there's a problem. That's not healthy. That's not the type of self-care that I'm talking about. I'm saying if somebody is toxic around you, regularly mistreating you, regularly taking advantage of you, regularly abusing you, and you continue to hold on to that person, you're not taking care of yourself. And you need to sometimes remove yourself from that person. And even if it's temporarily, to take care of yourself and make sure that you're going to be okay. Okay, so that's the difference between that. So you don't want to say, because you didn't buy me the shoes that I wanted, you don't make six figures, and you don't do everything that I like, that's a problem. No. But if somebody's mistreating you and not taking care of you, and they're interfering in you taking care of yourself, then that is when you have to make yourself a priority. So again, removing those things from your life that are interfering in you taking care of yourself, and then you not hurting your own self. You recognizing when you're doing stuff that is hurtful to you, because that's a part of the whole thing too. And so, you work on yourself. This is not a magic pill. Like, you understand this and then you just, boom, everything is good. You're going to align everything. Even if you try to remove everything from your life at once that's not healthy for you and stuff like that, you're not going to be able to stay consistent with it. And it even boils down to like brain wiring, because your brain is so used to doing the same thing over and over again. Your brain is going to resist carving out a new path in your mind to now do things differently, because it's much easier and uses less energy to just do the same thing that you already been doing. So it's going to take some effort. You don't have to take on everything at one time. But the first step is, of course, is recognizing where the problems are. And you won't do that if you don't understand what you need, and you don't sit down and get in tune with yourself and understand how to be honest with yourself about what you're doing and what you're not doing and what you need to change. And so you want to do that. And then, make sure I kind of lost my train of thought. So yeah, just make sure you are, taking on these things in a reasonable amount of time, because overwhelming your brain with a bunch of stuff that you can't do on your own is not healthy either. So you want to pace it out. Okay, I'm going to do this. You can start small. You can say, okay, I don't exercise very much. It's causing me these pains. I'm getting older, blah, blah, blah. Let me just start doing something once a week. Give yourself an easy goal in the beginning, because if you make it big, you're going to more easily give up. You're going to get frustrated, and then you're going to cause yourself stress, which again is going to affect you negatively. So start off with easy go. Okay, you know what? I have toxic relationship. I can't cut it off completely because I am attached to this person. But how about me? I do something small to step away. How about one day a week I take for myself? If you need to start 5 hours, 6 hours, and just gradually increase and work on those things, then you will get to a healthier place, which is what growth is. Growth is not perfection. Growth is moving towards the goal. As long as you're moving towards it, you're growing, and that's what you're supposed to be doing. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to give everything right, and you don't have to not, ever make mistakes. But as long as you're moving, no matter how small it is, you're growing, and you just continue to do that, because over time you will see a difference. And so so being in tune with yourself. A lot of people are not in tune with themselves. It goes back to not knowing what you need. You need to be in tune with yourself. If you're hurt, you're hurt. Just say you're hurt. You don't have to admit it to everybody. I mean, you should admit it to people that are close to you if you love and trust them, but you need to be in tune with yourself and your feelings and understand how you feel. And if you can get down to the why you feel them, that's even better, because it's going to make you more in tune with yourself. Because once you can figure out why you feel the way you feel, which is another video that I did, then it will help you understand what to do better next time. Okay, I can't do this because this may affected me like this. So now next time I'm going to do this. And so you always want to use the past to learn from so you can do better in the future. And so, yeah, you want to be in tune with yourself to understand these things and get a good idea of how to move forward and how to take better care of yourself. Like I said, I see a lot of people that are not in tune with themselves, men and women alike. A lot of women are not in tune with themselves because they pour themselves a lot of times to their relationships, until, their kids. Men sometimes pour themselves into their jobs and their goals and their hobbies, and don't take the time to really be in tune with themselves to understand what is going on inside of here. So you have to be able to do that. That is how you are a healthy person, how you become a healthy person. And along with that, you have to forgive yourself. Some people do things that hurt themselves because they feel like they deserve it, or it's a punishment of some kind. You have to learn how to forgive yourself and be nice to yourself. Like, it's funny how we can extend these things when it comes to other people, but it becomes very, very difficult for us to do them for ourselves. And I have the same issue. So it's not like I'm just perfect at it. I'm growing in it, which is what I'm supposed to be doing. And so, but you have to recognize when you're being very, very hard on yourself and when you're not forgiving yourself for stuff. We all make mistakes. Everybody does it. And if you really, really love somebody and they do something, and they mess up and they come to you and they cry and they say, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do that. If you love them, guess what you're going to do? You're going to say, you know what? I forgive you. Don't worry about it. And make the steps to do better next time. But we don't do that a lot when it comes to ourselves. We make mistakes and we beat ourselves up, which is a part of the enemy. In case you didn't know, he likes to come in and make us enemies of ourselves. And a lot of times we don't realize that he's doing that. But we need to recognize that so that we can grow and we can not forgive ourselves, not be unforgiving of ourselves, because it's not healthy. It's toxic. You stay stuck in a place. You beat yourself up. Mentally, it wears you out. Emotionally, it wears you out. You make poor decisions. Like, there's a lot of things that go to not forgiving yourself. You keep putting yourself in bad situations because you can't forgive yourself. So you might get in tune with yourself and try to learn what you need, and then realize, oh, I did this and I didn't do this and I didn't do that, and you start beating yourself up about it. You might even realize that one of the reasons why you're hurting yourself is because of something that you did a long time ago and you're punishing yourself. But you have to forgive yourself. You have to allow yourself the space to be an imperfect human and still learn and grow from it so that you can do better. And that's all forgiving yourself is. So you have to forgive yourself. And then another thing I want to touch on before I wrap up really quickly, and I might do an extra piece about this because I feel like there's a lot that can kind of go into this, is you have to accept yourself. I see a lot of people, no matter what age they are, whether they're kids, teenagers, adults, elderly people, that don't fully accept themselves. Now, you can understand yourself. You can even forgive yourself to some degree, but still not accept yourself. People are so unhappy with who they are, whether they're tall, whether they're short, whether they're fat, whether they're black, whether they're white, whether they're, very smart or not very smart. You have to learn to accept yourself for the way that you are, good and bad, because we all have it. So if you're not accepting yourself because you feel like you make mistakes, Well, welcome to reality. We all make mistakes. And if that's going to be your criteria for not accepting yourself, then you're never going to accept yourself because you're always going to make mistakes. So you see, it becomes this vicious cycle, and that's where a lack of growth comes from. So you have to be able to break outside of those things, which primarily starts in the mind, for you to just change your perspective, change your thinking, so that now you will do things differently. Because I always say, whatever is inside of you is going to come out. If you're thinking bad stuff, it's going to come out in your decisions, your behavior, your attitude. So you have to change your thinking about yourself. Yes, you make mistakes. Yes, you embarrass yourself sometimes. Yes, sometimes you're probably stupid, but guess what? It's okay. You're still you. Because at the same time that you have those things, that negative things, there are still positive things too. And so you don't want to stay so focused on the negative that you crowd out the positive. You know what? I do make mistakes sometimes, but I do good stuff sometimes too. You know what? Sometimes I do embarrass myself, but guess what? It was very funny at the time, you know, stuff like that. So you have to bring the positive in and see the good in yourself and accept yourself for the way you are. Accept that you're going to make mistakes. It's not the end of the world. The problem is when you don't learn from those things, because then again, lack of growth. Because if you don't learn, you're not going to grow. So you want to make sure you're accepting of yourself, how you look, how you feel, you know, what you do, what you don't do, what you're good at, what you're not good at. And then if there are some things that really, really bother you, work on changing them. It's just that simple. If you don't like your weight, come up with a plan to lose it. If you don't like the way you look, do what you can to change the way you look. You don't have to stay stuck in this place of just not accepting yourself for the sake of not accepting yourself and going around that vicious, toxic circle unnecessarily. So you want to accept yourself, accept your good, accept your bad. Yes, sometimes I do have a bad attitude. That doesn't make it right, but guess what? You can work on it. So we all need to work on accepting ourselves. And the biggest struggle when it comes to that I see is when it comes from the opinions of other people. But a lot of those other people need to learn how to accept themselves too, because if they did, they would not bother you as much. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, so this is just a short show about loving yourself, what it looks like, how to apply self-care. And I'll do another show about different things that you can do to take care of yourself. But I just wanted to bring that topic out for today and give you something to think about. If you have any questions, comments, you want to do a free session with me, you can visit my website at www.unveilingthespirit.com. It's at the bottom of the page. And you can also, email me too and ask me any question that you need if you don't necessarily want like a whole session or anything. I also have my course coming up soon, so you can also ask me about that as well, which teaches you different ways to take care of yourself. And I think that's it. So thank you so much for tuning in to my show today. Reach out if you need to. You have a wonderful day, a great weekend, and yeah, that's it. All right. Thank you so much. Have a good day. Bye.